rutting, boy.
Yes,
he don't know what to do. He just knows that the smell's in the air, boy.
Yep. Alright guys, it's the third day public land challenge out here in Indiana. Yesterday me and Greg struggled. We did not get into much other than just spooking every buck that we saw pretty much. But when we were leaving last night, we pulled out of the boat launch and drove around the corner right there and saw a huge buck in the middle of the road. And he was coming from public and going into public. So me and Ted brought the boat back in this morning to come back in here to where he was coming out of, in the hopes that he comes back in here to bed this morning. We got to the boat launch about 20 minutes after the end of legal last night, so I'm assuming that he's bedded up in here on this ridge. And there's a little sliver of private land on the road right there, so you can't access it from the road. You have to come in here by boat, or you have to walk in like 2 miles on the other side to get here and basically hunt within 300 yards of the road. Right now you might be able to hear the traffic in the background. We're only 400 or 500 yards from the road, but those bucks are obviously crossing that road to get from from A to B.
I left my sticks and platform and everything up in the tree, so I'm going the same tree. Luckily nothing was down here when I got here, so I haven't spooked any yet. It's 12 o'clock. I'm gonna climb down, go back to the boat, and spend a couple hours scouting, just a couple spots, and then get back up a tree. I'd like to get up a tree a little earlier today, have more time to sit, just in case. I think this is a classic example of hunting where I want the deer to be instead of hunting where the deer want to be. I mean, it does look good. There's trails, tracks, there's the persimmons with fresh sign, or sort of fresh sign. Either they're not in here right now, or they were and I missed them, I'm behind them, I don't know. If I go that way, I'll be going towards where I saw those does a couple days ago, and that's kind of where I'm thinking of finding a setup for the afternoon. Not going to do too much scouting, but I'll be back in here somewhere in a little bit.
Shoot him? Yeah, I'm gonna shoot him. But he's gotta come in a little closer. He's out of range now. He's a shifty one. It's a bobcat for sure. Bobcat. See his little white tail? That's pretty cool.
Alright, so we're in Central Time Zone here, but it's 11 o'clock Eastern Time Zone, so instead of getting down at the base of the tree and eating, just in case we do have a deer come by, I'd rather eat up here. But once we get done eating, we're going to roll out of here. Give this area a break, we'll definitely come back, but I just want to give it a break this evening because we've been wearing it out, and I think it's affecting it, because this morning was awesome morning, and we saw 0 deer. So we're going to go scout another area kind of as a backup and probably hunt it this evening if it looks decent. Right now we're going to make some lunch in the tree. When you're in the woods, it's a lot louder than when you're at camp. That's what they called Hagen in high school. Now we wait. second to last stick, had a small buck just come through there cruising. He stopped. There's some scrapes over there. He stopped, I think, hit a couple of those and snort wheezed once, and then just kept rolling through there.
That ain't a bad track. And this scrape is fresh. A lot better sign than what we had in the last place, eh? Mm-hmm. We're looking at getting up back into these ridges. The only downfall is we're following a lot of human sign back here, but we're still finding fresh deer sign. And hopefully this human sign peters out by the time we get what we picked out on the onyx. I feel a little better about this, and that's a real good track in this scrape, so good stuff. The goal is to just put on as many miles as we can until we get into deer, find where their hideouts are. I think we're getting closer. We haven't seen no hunter sign in the last 300-400 yards, so I'm feeling a little better about that. It just doesn't look like really hard access, but it is a long walk, so maybe it's deterring some people. It's got doe track and a buck track by chasing. See that? Doe track there, buck track there. You can smell the urine in it. There's fresh tracks on it. It's been used day after day. We're getting closer. It's just a matter of how far we go to set up. So we're getting close to that union of all the ridges. I'm thinking we might need to set up there, give that a shot before we move any further. Because these deer aren't getting any pressure up there, it doesn't seem.
No.
Unless we hit hunter sign up there, we haven't seen any sign of a hunter back here. We'll follow this deer back to that union and maybe even further if the trail goes one way. But if several trails come together, then we'll stop. When we hit that first scrape that looked really fresh, we came up the trail a little bit and the sign stopped. And then we hit a glove from a hunter that had freshly been dropped. It was hanging on some brush. And there was no deer sign coming up here, so I said, I bet they crossed this gully and crossed because there was only one sign there. We came down here and in line with it, we found another big scrape. And I was just looking at my phone and looking at the directional and saying the wind's got to be blowing like this. And we took 2 steps over here and I was thinking this is a leeward ridge, and a buck got up right in front of us, right, probably 50 yards. This probably would have been the spot to set up, but it's kind of hard to set up in a spot like this. I don't know that he'll be back or he won't be, or he's bedded right downwind of that scrape, smelling to see if a doe come or whatever. So we're standing here talking about what to do about the buck, and a doe jumps up in the same bedding area there on that hillside. The scrape's over here. We're kind of looking at the wind going like this. We're going to go down further, but it gets so thick, it's obvious the deer ain't coming from there. They're coming up that ridge side, or they're coming across. The doe went that way, and the buck went that way. And I'd have to think if there's does bedding in there, that buck's bedding there because of the does, and other bucks are going to come here, and that's why that scrape's there. Only thing that bothers me is there's only the same big track that's in here is in the other scrape, so it might be the same buck, but he might come back. But I'm looking around, and right away I see a tree over there that's dead, that has old railroad tie stakes in it. So obviously somebody thought this was a good spot at one point in time. They go way up too. This is looking good. At least we have a good morning spot.
Yeah.
I think they'll come back in the morning and at least check it out.
We sat for a little while this morning and decided to get down. Didn't see anything, didn't see much sign in there. I'm not sure that big buck that I saw last night is moving through there or not. There was a fresh rub, but other than that, not many tracks, not much sign in general. So we got back in the boat. We've been cruising around, gonna do a little bit more scouting and then try to make a plan for the evening. We just saw a couple does and a bobcat up the creek here, and now we're just popping out to scout a little bit more. We actually have spotted a few rubs right off the boat. We've got a couple rubs up here in this horsetail grass right here, but I'm gonna creep up to the top of this ridge and look and see if there's any fresh sign. Some of this stuff is really difficult to access without the boat, so I'm hoping that nobody's been in here. I got up here, I can see like 10 more rubs. There's gotta be 30 rubs right here. Yeah. Within 40 yards of us. And, I mean, the grass is trampled and everything right there where deer have been going back and forth. The reason why I didn't bring Ted up there with me is just because I can see thick cover on both sides of us. It's like the spooky point right here where you take one step too much and you blow them out of the bedding, because I can see a bunch of greenbrier in there with rubs leading into it. I wouldn't be surprised if there's deer bedded within 80 yards of us in there. We're on this long ridge that runs out. We've taken the boat around to two sides of it, and every time we get out of the boat, we make it about 40 yards, and we're running into sign. Like there's multiple bucks living on this ridge. That's the best scrape I've seen yet, for sure. Alright, we're set up for the afternoon. We got in here real early, and the wind is not being real consistent, similar to last night. It's been kind of dancing around every which way, but just in the last 15-20 minutes, it's kind of wanted to stabilize and blow back towards the boat, which is what we need. We're hoping that as it gets closer to dark, that the thermals will pull down in this little ditch over my right shoulder here and down to the water where the boat is. If that's the case, that's perfect. The scrape is right over here, so we need that wind to be pulling towards that water. If it's blowing at that scrape, that could be a problem. We're just gonna have to live with it. It's a light and variable wind day, and it's just doing this. If it gets too bad as we get closer to time when we think the deer would be most likely to move, we may climb down and just try to find a ground setup somewhere where we can minimize the drift. But it's a sweet spot. I don't know if we'll see anything or not, but this is the most sign we've found this whole time. That scrape is right there, 22 yards, and there's fresh tracks in it. Lots of fresh tracks, and y'all can probably see how that little opening out there is matted down right in front of that scrape. Past that, there's some greenbrier and other stuff growing up. I think we could have a pretty good hunt in this spot if the wind cooperates.
Guessing it was an 8-point. Turkey poop on it. Other one might be laying around here somewhere. If it looks like this though, it's really not worth keeping. First Indiana shed though. 8-point, I'm guessing. Now it's a boomerang. I'll leave it for the squirrels. So we're actually just about, as a crow flies, 250 yards from the truck probably. Maybe less than that. Once I get up here, I'll measure it. We got good cover, good backdrop on this tree. We're gonna get right up here on this edge of this white oak flat, kind of like our similar setup over there. That way if a buck tries to skirt it, just like the buck that I shot at did, we'll hopefully be in the right position. It looks like there's a bunch of old tracks down in here. Well, old tracks, like tracks that you can tell they're using this area a lot. Alright, so we just got up in a tree. I love this tree. It's actually the best tree we've been in just because of the amount of cover and stuff around us. Wind is perfect right now. It's blowing up in us in the face. Going back up in there. So, we'll see what happens here. I don't really have too high of expectations, to be honest, for this spot. But I've been wanting to set it just because we've been passing it by and there is some really big sign back there. And there are tracks under us, but we're going to sit here this evening. Maybe in the morning, I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure about this spot. I could be, hopefully I'm wrong though. Hopefully a booner walks by. And I should hit it this time.
ended up taking a nap in the boat. I don't have that much time to scout, but I'm refreshed and ready to stay awake and alert in the tree, I guess. I'm gonna go up this ridge. Looks like on the map, looks like there's a thicket up on the hillside. Man, I'm gonna see if there's any sign around the edge of it. If it doesn't look really good, I'll just hop back down to the boat and head back over to that standing corn and go towards where I saw those does a couple days ago. Wind is blowing completely backwards almost from what the weather says. Yesterday it was blowing the way it's supposed to. I thought it's because I was at the bottom of the hill, but I'm at the top of the hill. It's still blowing wrong. We can go back into where we started this morning and check the wind. Start poking around in there. I hate corn stalks. Don't have very far to go and we'll be in the woods. There's deer tracks all over here. I was up in the red oak up there. Never saw a deer. So I'm thinking they're further up in there during the day maybe. So we got all this thicket up here, and then it should hopefully open up a little bit down in this draw, and then more thicket that way. Right now the wind is coming this way, which is good, but it changes every minute or two. It's a terrible wind today. I'm not liking that, but I gotta try to make something work. I think in this block of woods, if I sit in the right place and the wind doesn't screw up, I'll probably see a deer or two. I just jumped a couple deer off bed. There's one. They didn't run far, they didn't blow. I've been going really slow, like 3-4 steps at a time, and listening. Took 3 more steps and they took off. I could probably quietly work my way up and just climb a tree right here. Wouldn't be a bad idea. Here goes nothing. Don't let me forget that. I'll see y'all up there. Wind is still sketchy, but it's not too terribly bad. Bad thing is, I think I lost my grunt call. Hopefully I don't need it. Alright, it's just about a little bit after 2 o'clock. We just got down to the river, but we found a bunch of good sign. I think we got a pretty good idea of how to kill one in here. What we're gonna do today, we got a north wind, so it's coming back into the river like this. You can see this ridge drops off right here. Basically what we just walked through, I'm thinking is the same stuff on this other side. It's gonna be thick honeysuckle, greenbrier. Well, we can just pop right over this ridge, sit on the backside of that and catch anything cruising this edge. The bucks we saw today, except for the one we scared the crap out of, was definitely cruising. Bucks we saw yesterday were definitely cruising, so November 1st. Let's get in a tree and shoot one. It's about 3:45. We just got set up in the tree for the evening. Did a bunch of scouting this morning. Really just trying to let this river go down so we can have better access. It's been kind of our roadblock so far, but it's definitely gone down probably about a foot since we left last night. So I think tomorrow we'll be in the chips to really utilize the river. Kind of been pigeonholed to just crossing it and not really being able to navigate it up and down, just going pretty much straight across, which is still gets us to a spot that's way back if you had to walk. So it's not a bad thing. Basically what we have here is the river oxbows right here. Bends, and we have a peninsula that goes right out here. It's really thick, nasty bedding. We have an oak flat behind us. We got an old logging road that all those scrapes were on. And this bedding, northwest wind coming right back like this. So in theory, a buck should be able to cruise the downwind side of this too. So we got a couple things going for us. Hopefully the evening's good to us and we see some deer on their feet.
see what he is.
Yeah.
Can't shoot him.
Yeah. Yeah.
He stopped right behind that tree. He's still standing there. Can I let down? Oh man, what a heart. Did you have him good? I mean, so I've been staring at this maple leaf right there, that little limb. That's what screwed me. I stopped him one step too far. I could see his neck and his back half. That was a cool buck. He just came right off this ridge. I mean, I just was like, he's dead. You're like, he's dead. That's exactly what we set up for. Except he's not dead. Just had another buck come out. Came out of this thick stuff down below us. I'm sure there's a pile of deer in there. Came out and he worked up basically the opposite way of what that other first buck did. I grunted with it to him just to see what he would do. And it probably would have shot him. I'm not picky. If you haven't heard me say that before, I'm gonna say it again. I'm not picky. And I'll be real pumped about anything. I mean, me and Jake were already contemplating shooting a doe on the 4th or 5th day in case if things don't happen, but we're seeing way more bugs. Hopefully they just keep getting bigger and bigger throughout the night. We just had that doe come by. Perfect. She was a buck. That would have been ideal. 30 yards, just walking the trail that other buck stopped at. But we got about 20 minutes of light left. Figured I'd wrap it up on that in case we don't see anything else. Awesome day here in Indiana. I think we saw 5 bucks. Had that really good encounter, and then almost shot that one this morning. So just a great day in the woods. It's November. Today sure felt like it was November. Bugs cruising, temperatures dropping. We'll be back out here somewhere tomorrow, doing the same thing. Hopefully not stopping them behind trees. So it's about 2:30. We seen one doe at like 11:30 today. She got across the point behind us, didn't make a sound. Didn't get no footage of her because we just caught her right at the last second. And then me and Josh was actually debating on whether to get down. In the midst of that conversation, we'd both kind of talked each other into we was going to get down. And then all at once here comes a buck and a doe. They skirted right around us here probably, I don't know, 75 yards or something because we could hear them good. And then I heard him grunting. Never did see him, but so that gives us a little extra motivation just to hang in here. We slipped down and got on the ground for a minute and stretched our legs, and then we got back up. So we'll hang tight in here, man. There's a lot of deer sign in here, and I seen some deer in here yesterday evening, so
Well, hang tight. Finally got her wind a little bit. He's trying hard. I knew he was trying hard. Yeah. He was trying real hard to get killed too.
Okay, so we're set up. I got kind of mediocre confidence. There's a really good scrape and rub line that's got very fresh tracks going in and out of a big buck. This is the furthest scrape this way. When we got in here, we jumped a buck right here, just down from the scrape. And a doe got up and ran off too. And I'm willing to bet that that's a doe bed in there, kind of open, just rolling hill, just thick stuff. The scrape, I'm not sure if that buck was the buck that made the scrape or he's just checking on the doe. But that scrape has a trail that goes up and down like this. May run this ridge, but it looks like when he gets to that scrape, he might go back over to the other ones. So I'm thinking he might come from two directions, that way or that way. One of the good things about this is it's pretty open. It's a quiet day. We might be able to hear him if he comes through and he's not by us. Maybe we can call him over, or maybe we can move over to him tomorrow. That ridge over there I was real interested in too, but I didn't want to go past this one until I hunted this. But we can see that ridge. You can see through holes, and you can see the wooded ridge. So if he cruises that ridge, we'll see him. So it's a good starting position back here, but there's definitely a big buck running around in here all over the place. Swirling winds.
Yep.
I don't know why they just can't leave.
Yeah. Did you ever see the other one? I heard it back there.
I thought I was seeing two, but no, after it came out, I think maybe it was just one or something walking in the background and get up to where she ran to. So maybe there was a buck in there somewhere, I don't know. Yeah. Sure sounded like someone was walking up there.
So when we went in and we're scouting, we walked in, found that big scrape, jump a buck up, and he runs off. And then a doe jumps up and runs off. So when we were hunting, a doe came in really cautious, and I think it was the same doe. She came from where she ran, came in by herself, and she just kept working her way in, really slow until she got right underneath us and then spooked and ran into some thick stuff on the draw and was blowing at us. And then when she went in there, something blew at us again, a lot coarser and heavier, obviously not the same deer. It was really hard to control the wind out there. It was swirling all over the place. For the most part, it was consistent, but every now and then you get those drifters. And then closer to closing time, a buck came through probably a 2-year-old rack about like this, 7 or 8 pointer. Went through it about 50 yards. I don't think you got any footage of it, did you?
No.
But it went past. I tried to run it over just so we could get a look at it, but it didn't come in. Then after it left, we heard a lot of deer walking around in that draw. So I'm kind of excited about tomorrow. Should be fun.
Well, me and Ted have sat here for about 5.5 hours this afternoon and haven't seen a deer. It feels really dead back here. Most of the rubs that we found are 2 or 3 weeks old. There's a pile of rubs. And that scrape down there is fresh. There's fresh tracks in it since the rain, but rained a day and a half ago. Could have been deer back here this morning, could have been deer back here yesterday, but there doesn't appear to be any back here right now. We've been sitting up here talking, trying to figure out what our next move is, and instead of just sitting here waiting for it to get dark, I think we're going to jet back out to the water and see if we can observe it, something of use on the way out tonight. We're kind of either hot or cold around this water. It's like that first day we saw 4 different bucks. Since then, like yesterday, me and Greg bumped into several bucks. So there's definitely bucks to be had on this river. I mean, we're in a pile of sign right here. So there's one in here for sure. We may jet back out to the water quick and motor up there and see if we can observe something here at last light that will help with our decisions for tomorrow.
Yeah, that paint kind of just meshes right into your beard a little bit.
Well,
Kind of
that's
hard
a
to
good
tell
thing.
where one stops and the
Another
other
one
starts.
begins.
Oh, jeez. Somebody just rolled in just now. Is that Jon Lewis?
Yeah,
I ain't got no text
I
from
talked to
anybody.
him. I talked to him earlier, and they saw some bucks this morning, and then he pulled back on one this evening. But he said,
Oh, really?
He said he stopped it at the wrong place,
Oh,
and then once he started back, he didn't stop.
oh, dang.
I don't know. John or Lewis was pretty late there.
Yeah, he was like
He was
last
dragging.
night.
Golly,
He was soaking wet.
Yeah.
He left him kayaks wherever
Said
they
we
was
found
at.
a good spot, but I don't know if we can get back to it. Apparently they must have got back to it.
Is that Jim?
That's a Ford.
I don't know who that is.
The other camper.
Still got guys rolling in from the day, but no dice today, day 3. But we're getting into towards the end of the trip here. 4, 5, and 6 are usually the days when something goes down. So I'm hoping that
I'm
stays
hoping it ain't me.
consistent. Yeah, no kidding. It's gonna be me if I don't get some sleep. But we're getting closer. Sounds like everybody's getting a little bit closer.
I wish I had.
I'm a hand warmer
Climbing
king,
sticks
ain't I,
are
Kirk?
Did you bring your vest?
I got my
He
electrical
stuffed them in his
vest.
cap and
I put them in my cap, warm that head up. I put the stickies on my chest.
All right, that's it. Getting closer. Promise. Well, I don't promise anything. This is deer hunting. You never know what could happen tomorrow, but I feel good about it. So we'll see you then.
I was about to get out and go scout, and I was like, oh.
Me
I
and
just
Ted-
ate those burritos, and it hit me.
The food coma.
Food coma. Shut him down.